Have you ever noticed something strange about your car's engine oil? The exact same car, same engine, same design, same everything. But in one country, it recommends 0W-20 oil, and in another, it tells you to use 5W-30, or even 10W-30. At first, that sounds like a small detail, but what if I told you that this one decision could quietly affect your engine's lifespan, your fuel economy, and potentially cost you thousands in long-term wear? Because the truth is, this isn't just about oil. It's about engineering compromises, government regulations, and decisions made on paper, not always in the real world. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which oil your engine actually needs. Let's start with something that confuses almost every driver. Take a common 2.5-liter engine. In the United States, the manual says, use 0W-20 full synthetic. No exceptions. But in Japan, Australia, or Europe, the exact same engine often recommends 5W-30. Same parts, same design. So what changed? Not the engine, not the materials, not even the tolerances. What changed is the system around it. Most people think oil recommendations are purely based on engineering. That engineers test everything, analyze every condition, and choose the perfect oil. But that's only part of the story. Because in reality, oil selection is heavily influenced by fuel economy laws, especially in the United States. Here's something most drivers never hear. Automakers in the US must meet strict fuel economy targets. If they miss those targets, they don't just get a warning, they get fined millions of dollars. Even a tiny shortfall, like half a mile per gallon, can cost a company a fortune. So how do they squeeze out that extra efficiency? They reduce friction inside the engine. And one of the easiest ways to do that is by using thinner oil. Thinner oil, like 0W-20, flows more easily. It creates less resistance. The engine spins more freely. And on paper, fuel economy improves. Even a small gain, like 0.5 mpg, can make the difference between passing or failing regulations. But here's the trade-off nobody talks about. Thinner oil means thinner protection. Inside your engine, metal parts are constantly moving at high speed. Bearings, pistons, camshafts. They rely on a thin film of oil to keep them from touching. That oil film is everything. And when the oil is thinner, that protective layer becomes weaker under heat and pressure. Now compare that to 5W-30. It's slightly thicker when cold, but significantly thicker when hot. That means a stronger oil film, better protection under stress, and less wear over time. So why not just use thicker oil everywhere? Because there's always a trade-off. 0W-20 gives better fuel economy. 5W-30 gives better long-term protection. And depending on where the car is sold, the priority changes. In the US, the priority is efficiency. In many other regions, the priority is durability. That's why the same engine gets different recommendations. Not because it needs different oil, but because the system demands different results. Now let's clear up what these numbers actually mean. When you see 0W-20, the 0W refers to cold temperature performance. The lower the number, the better it flows in cold starts. That's important, because most engine wear happens when you first start the car, is the viscosity at operating temperature. Basically, how thick the oil stays when the engine is hot. Now look at 5W-30. The 5W is slightly thicker during cold starts, but the 30 means it stays thicker when the engine is fully warmed up. And that's where the real difference happens. Because your engine doesn't spend most of its life cold. It spends most of its life hot. In traffic, on highways, under load. And that's where thicker oil can make a big difference. Now here's something even more important. Engines change over time. When your car is new, everything is tight and precise. Clearances are small. Parts fit perfectly. And thinner oil works just fine. But as the engine ages, things wear. Clearances increase. Tiny gaps become slightly bigger, and that thin oil film becomes less effective. That's why many experienced mechanics recommend something most people never hear. As your engine ages, you should consider slightly thicker oil. Not because something is wrong, but because the engine has changed. Now let's talk about heat, because this is where things get serious. In hot climates, engine oil temperatures can exceed 110 degrees Celsius, sometimes even higher in traffic. At those temperatures, thin oils can start to lose viscosity. They become even thinner, and that protective film, it gets weaker. Independent tests have shown that some 0W-20 oils can lose up to 10 to 15% of their viscosity over time in high heat. Meanwhile, 5W-30 tends to remain more stable, and that stability means better protection. This is exactly why, in hotter regions like the Middle East or Australia, manufacturers often recommend thicker oil. Same engine, different environment, different priority. Now here's something that might surprise you. In many cases, engineers don't even have the final say, because once a car is certified with a specific oil, changing that recommendation later becomes complicated, expensive, and time-consuming. So even if engineers know that a slightly thicker oil might be better in certain conditions, the official recommendation stays the same, because it's tied to certification, not just performance. Now let's get into real-world results, because this isn't just theory. When engines are tested over long periods, the results are consistent. Thinner oil gives slightly better fuel economy, but thicker oil often shows lower wear, cleaner internal components, and better long-term durability. In turbocharged engines, this difference becomes even more important, because turbos run extremely hot. They rely heavily on oil for both lubrication and cooling, and under those conditions, maintaining a strong oil film is critical. Many mechanics report that switching from 0W-20 to 5W-30 in turbo engines reduces oil consumption, improves smoothness, and lowers wear indicators. Now let's address the biggest concern: warranty. Will changing oil viscosity void it? In most cases, no. As long as the oil meets the required specifications, manufacturers generally cannot deny warranty claims, unless they can prove the oil caused the damage. And that's very difficult to do. Another key factor most people ignore is oil quality, because not all oils are the same. Even within the same viscosity, high-quality synthetic oils contain better additives, better detergents, better anti-wear protection, and better resistance to breakdown. So sometimes, a high-quality 5W-30 can outperform a low-quality 0W-20 in every category. At the end of the day, choosing the right oil isn't about blindly following numbers. It's about understanding your driving conditions, your climate, and your engine's age. If you drive short distances, in moderate weather, and maintain your car regularly, 0W-20 is perfectly fine. But if you drive long distances, live in hot climates, or plan to keep your car for many years, a slightly thicker oil might be the smarter choice, because your engine doesn't care about regulations, cares about protection. And that's the real takeaway. The oil recommendation in your manual is designed to meet standards, not always to maximize lifespan. So the next time you change your oil, don't just ask, "What does the manual say?" What does my engine actually need? Because when you understand that difference, you stop thinking like a consumer and start thinking like an engineer. And that might be the cheapest insurance your engine will ever get.